This is the generational difference. And what this number represents is a complete collapse in trust. I voted him in to do something. I saw him start, and then he stopped. So this is the fourth turning. It's been a while since we brought this up, but it's this idea that history is cyclical and that you go through periods of crises and then your society has a high, and that high slowly decays to an unraveling because of institutional rot and selfishness and a collapse in moral values. And that then there's a crisis. The bill comes due. And our last crisis ended in 1945. It was World War II. And we can all agree that that was tough times. The whole period was kicked off by the Great Depression. And so there was a pretty crappy 15-year period. And then we're due again. Like it says, 2025 is the ending of our crisis. People are living longer, so maybe it'll be 2030, but it seems like it could be this year. But what you see diagonally is this is all caused by the way that generations grow up in different contexts. So you see, like, this crisis hit here, and the silent generation, there were some of them that were like 5 or 10, but there were a whole lot of silent generation people that got shipped off to war. They were like the grunts at the peak of the European and Pacific theater. And, also somewhat the GI generation, but the GI generation was like your majors and colonels and admirals that got us through a major crisis. And then you have the boomers. So these people all grew up in the high when demand for societal order and supply of societal order were at its highest. Everybody was beat up after World War II. And then they're like, oh my God, we're the victors. Sky's the limit. American dream was launched really right here. Well, let's not conflate things. The American dream is that you can just come to America and live a better life. But this is where you could buy a house with cash on a single income and you didn't need to go to college, and you could go join a corporation as the mailroom clerk and become the CEO and get a gold watch. Very, very, very different times. Women just wanted to stay home and raise kids and be parents and throw dinner parties. Like, very different time. Everybody watched the same show. Everybody wore the same thing. Very, 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 very different time. So boomers were kids then. And if you think about it, then they got out from underneath their parents, the silence and the GIs. And they, experienced Woodstock, got some drugs, had a lot of sex, explored rock and roll, like got out and just became more individualistic. But they grew up in a set of values and institutions that were very idealistic. And so they kept these ideals. Then they, did a lot of coke and became CEOs and a lot of retail trading and lived longer and got their Viagra and have all of this wonderful healthcare that for the first time, this generation really got to experience like an increase in longevity because of all of these new treatments. And they had the tech boom, and they had a lot of really crazy, great, interesting things. Their kids all grew up like, Boy Scouts. My parents were boomers, and I grew up in a church, had Boy Scouts, had a lot of really good things. Again, we weren't rich, but they were teachers, and we had a lot. And now people can't afford to buy a house. My parents got their first house at like 25 with like a 5-year mortgage or something ridiculous like that. So the yellow is what they call the hero generation. That's the one that solved the problem. And it's at the inflection point where previous generations, the boomers had it, the heroes take it and fix the problems. And so the idea that youth are going to rebel against the older generations is a really big deal. And again, I think it's happening now. Seeing people like JD Vance come out at the Turning Point USA event and present just in a 40-minute Q&A a very different view of what the right looks like in a way that improves his ability to get elected. He did that. His odds of getting elected on the betting markets went up. That's the kind of thing you'll see in the hero generation. And that's the kind of thing that a Republican Party needs to be relevant, because this is the inflection point. The problem is the Republican Party is the boomer party. The Democrats have already embraced their younger core. They've embraced their hero generation, which is basically a whole bunch of socialists that care a lot about Muslims, to be honest with you. That's their hero generation. And it's probably not good for America. And so it's all in our best interest for, a new right to figure this out and have a platform that is relevant. So we have this just a view that the drubbing that happened on Tuesday was caused by young people and by women specifically, but definitely young people. So you look at Zoran Mamdani in New York, and women went for him 84% under 30, but also the men 68%. So look at that age signal right there with men. Only 36% of men 65 and older. So there's this aspect of the young people in Manhattan that were like, I want what this guy is selling. We'll examine why. Same kind of thing in New Jersey. Again, not as much by the men, but 18 to 29-year-old men went 56% Mikey Sherrill and 81% of the women. And then you look at Jay Jones, same signal, 76% of women under 30. They don't care if he wanted to murder kids. This is a strong signal. And this comes after election that many people said, well, Gen Z is more based than they've ever been. They're moving conservative. They're coming back to church, don't you know? No, they're voting for socialists. They're voting for people with major scandals because they don't care. They are trying to get relief. This is a crisis level for them. And it's so weird to see people like this guy come out and try to speak for Gen Z. And it's like, okay, well, they're trying to whitewash Gen Z by saying, look at Turning Point USA. It represents a new trend. Gen Z stands with Trump. But what I'm trying to tell you is Gen Z is actually increasingly abandoning Trump. And why is this guy out there on Fox News speaking for Gen Z? Don't listen to them. This is the evil, wrong. This guy is clearly, in my opinion, shilling for the traditional big business arm of the Republican Party that does not want to give up control to economic populists. This guy's arguing for the melting pot, increased immigration, diversity is our strength. This is boomer values. And they tried to inject it into this guy. Unbelievable. So this is, in my opinion, probably the one you want to screenshot. This is the profound analysis I did today. Stunning. Yes, it's true that young women like Trump the least. But the real story here is that he's completely lost the youth. The Republicans need to change rapidly or fade further into irrelevance. So this is Trump net approval by gender and age. And you can see this is from the end of February to the beginning of March. And net approval among men under 30 was 30 points. These people did not vote for Donald Trump in November by this much. So Donald Trump came into office, did stuff, they liked it, his approval went up. His approval was really high by Gen Z, in fact, the highest. Gen Z and millennials loved what Trump was doing among men, but among women, look at this. Millennial women gave Trump a +7 net approval. The Zoomer women, it was only -5. These people are feminists, they're socialists, and yet the women, these are the people with purple hair on TikTok, and they only gave Trump a -4 net approval rating in February and March. Now, here's where we are at over Election Day, the week and a half leading up to Election Day, and a complete and utter freaking collapse. Gen Z men rate Trump -4, down from 30. Gen Z women rate Trump -45. Well, that's weird because Trump didn't do any Handmaiden Tale stuff. So, like, why is it plunging? Probably snap, probably government shutdown. I don't know. But look at this. Probably the siren song of democratic socialism. The older age men didn't really move at all. And Trump lost older women. But here you can see a change in net approval. And we're talking about a period of only like 6 months, not a really massive period of time. And obviously, his approval ratings down across the board, but not that much. Like, we're talking about honeymoon territory to like the fall of the first year, usually not that great. His approval might come up some, but this is the story. Men and women under 30 dropped the same, 35 points, 36 points. Men and women under 40 dropped about the same. Men and women under 50 dropped about the same. And so it's not a gender thing. A gender thing dictates whether you're more or less likely to like Trump, but it does not dictate how much your opinions changed since the end of February. And why was it so high then? Why did I pick that week? Well, this is why I think that you guys should follow me. So let me make my pitch here. Please like the video again. Maybe drop a comment where you're from or something so more people get in here. Please subscribe. Like, all of these things will help more people see this. I think this slide is very, very, very important. And I would also like, later after the stream, if you could consider going to rasmussenreports.com. At the very least, please sign up for the daily newsletter, but a reader subscription, we'd really like it. Or you can see our articles on Twitter. We do Twitter subscriptions as well. And it's the stories that we put out every day. We poll questions, we report the results to you, and often they're very, very, very profound. But what I can tell you is they're unique. Nobody's really doing this. So this is Google search trend volume for the term DOGE. And the spike here represents when people were most interested in DOGE. What's DOGE doing? What's going on? I keep hearing DOGE. Let me find out more about DOGE. It is exactly the week where people under 40 gave Donald Trump his highest approval rating, 60%. They saw the government being dismantled. Elon Musk was promising $1 trillion in deficit costs. They were going to audit the Fed. They were going to go do a tour of Fort Knox. They were going to get rid of all the duplicate payments and dead people in Social Security and Medicare. Like, what happened to all that stuff? They were going to audit the DOD. Where did DOGE go? This is what made the young people happy. Finally, the system being dismantled. Look at these numbers. It got the insane under 30 Starbucks barista women with a freaking nose ring to support Trump. That's how high this number was. This is the generational difference. And what this number represents is a complete collapse in trust. I voted him in to do something. I saw him start, and then he stopped. This is why Trump and the Republican Party are in massive, massive danger. They got to change.